The Gambia, land of over 1.8 million, is home to diverse cultures, beliefs and values born from the pre-colonial migration of the sub-Saharan nations towards the greener West. This mixture of tribes brings along differences in what is believed to be right or wrong. With every man's personality different from the other, there was a need for a framework that harmonizes these differences into the organized and peaceful society we now call the Gambia. That framework is law and order and the institutions of justice. Sadly, a huge percentage of our population lacks the adequate knowledge of their civic rights and existing justice mechanisms for effective participation in the democratic process and dispensation of justice. Hence the need for further sensitization on our rights and how to access justice. In November 2014, a justice sensitization project called Access to Justice Civic Awareness Campaign was conceived to bridge the gap that exists between the justice institutions and the ordinary citizens. The Access to Justice Civic Awareness Campaign is a result of a generous funding from the European Union under the Access to Justice and Legal Education Project, with the hard work and expertise of a team of international experts and government institutions.
A project that has been conceived since November 2014 with the sole objective of making justice accessible to the citizenry, especially the common man who may not have the funds to acquire for justice, but also know the right-based approaches to seek for justice.
The main objective is to alert the public as to how to approach the tripartite system of justice in the Gambia, a somewhat complex system with specific disputes, and to obtain a peaceful and amicable resolution.
This campaign aims to bring awareness to the Gambian general public as to their civic rights and how to access them through the various portals of justice, not only in the formal court system, but also in the Kadi courts, and particularly by use of traditional means of dispute resolution at the village level, with focus on the frontline administrators of justice, the Alkalolu, and the community mediators.
Without access to justice and a delay to justice is basically justice denied to people. So we thought it would be important to sensitize the communities and let them know where they can go when they're aggrieved.
This pilot project targeted 3 strategic locations in the Gambia, namely Brikama, Quinella, and Kurau. Some of these locations usually have been on the disadvantaged side of acquiring justice due to their remoteness and relative scarcity of justice avenues. In the Gambia, most of the lawyers and justice structures are centered around the Greater Banjul areas, to the disadvantage of remote regions who usually find it difficult to access them.
And the justice system is broad. It involves the police, it involves the courts, it involves different departments. So for the citizens to have access, shouldn't just be limited to the citizens living in the urban areas.
There are no lawyers here. You rarely find lawyers here. Most of them are concentrated in the combos. So access to justice is like bringing them this opportunity to the provinces, so they can, if they've got any problems, legal issues, then we can assist them and give them ways forward.
So the aim is to train the elders, whom are the gateway in the society, so that certain information can be readily available to the community.
With the objective of getting civic rights information effectively disseminated to the target groups, The project made use of the expertise of local institutions such as National Council for Civic Education, NCCE, National Agency for Legal Aid, NALA, Alternative Dispute Resolution Secretariat, ADRS, and Female Lawyers Association of the Gambia, FLAG. NCCE, being a national institution that is mandated to create and sustain awareness among the Gambian citizenry on their civic and constitutional rights, duties, and responsibilities for the achievement of political, economic, and social stability through civic education.
Well, the National Council for Civic Education being the primary implementer, our mandate and mission are quite explicit, and simply put, it is to cultivate an environment of democratic continuity that will enable all citizens, irrespective of gender, creed, age, or political affiliation, to actively participate in the governance of our dear country, the Gambia.
It is NCCE who has been the focus of coordination of all the other implementers, entities, services, and media information to get the word out to the Gambian public as to how to use existing resources to solve their disputes.
Services of the National Agency for Legal Aid was also employed in the areas of mobile legal aid clinic, where legal advice and representation was brought to the doorstep of the residents in the project pilot locations.
Niko ADR walong misin fa nimba fala na manika counto walong ko nga simfa dolta be malaya min mente ma nga to be wata na manta mansaya o meta na mo fin dujan.
NALA in full is National Agency for Legal Aid. We provide legal assistance in form of advice. We do legal representation. We also carry out sensitization in the villages.
If you have problems of marriage, divorce, inheritance, the Kadi is here to take care of all those issues. Some people also have problems of land issues, family issues, and they don't wish to go to court. We also have a representative from ADRS who is here to do the negotiation and help you negotiate without going to court. You have problems about your kids, your children, maintenance. The social welfare officer is here to take care of those situations also. We also have the lawyers from the Ministry of Justice and NALA who are here to hear all your legal problems and give advice towards it. All this we are doing free of charge and in confidence. Whatever you do or talk to us is going to be on one-on-one basis and it's going to be confidential.
ye ketaro beke yadi walla so ntamam fen soto so birin nata nyin ko ben kono malomba kacala dame so mfana ngani action legal aid la kumo moy ngela kibaro moy so nata ntata je ngeje yen attend very good so birin tata alhamdulillah yen advice la ya fonye nyanta tala dame ani nyanta melkela.
FLAG is a non-government institution with the objective of promoting and protecting the rights of women and children who are often viewed as the most vulnerable groups of society. The institution conducted the training of community leaders and law enforcement agencies, focusing mainly on the rights of women, children, and obligations of law enforcement agencies.
FLAG's participation in this project is to raise awareness on women's and children's rights. So our training is basically focused on legislation that deals with women and children's rights in the Gambia. So our aim is for the communities to know that these legislations are in existence and what their rights and duties are in this legislation.
A careful study of the groups that are more in need of the trainings and sensitization programs was done, and community leaders, law enforcement agencies, youth, women, imams and alkalolus were identified as target groups. In the rural settings, customs and traditions outweigh the English laws in the execution of justice. Natives prefer settling disputes through cultural institutions like family heads, imams, alkalolus, and chiefs. It is against this background that the project deemed it necessary to train these community leaders as paralegals in administering justice and directing the general community in ways and places of settling disputes in accordance with the common law. In each training location, the Female Lawyers Association trained 20 community leaders on the Women's Act, Children's Act, Domestic Violence and Sexual Offences Acts, land rights, inheritance structures of the courts and Sharia.
Karame ya lonko jorteje ye wali ye karandi abeni horomoni mbunya nga fahamu ro sotoje na londo kafutaji because nga fenjama karanja nyintilinano namana lon na baluwo kon so flat nteke tentu ke jayi ni la stafful
ni ko gender iko human right ani nan wolbe mu mebe man fem fahamu je bar biri nata nan jang na lectoralu en karande minna fahamu soto je ngalo ñun fanamu bundal min alon ko wolle be lori ñim bundal ye ngalon nin kulate kam fana istano bunda min to ñinin karo ke je pour bakoyro nata wol be lo.
Law enforcement officers were also trained as they are usually the first point of call when dispute arises. It is important to remind them of their role in the general process of enforcing justice. They were trained on how to settle disputes legally and the scope of their powers and limitations.
This workshop is important to us as the law enforcement unit of the Gambia, like specifically the Gambia Police Force, because as we clearly stated it out inside there, we are the first call of alarm, like when the general public needs help from the police, being it in any way, we are the first people they contact. So it's very vital for us to know what our roles are, and even if they come with their different cases, we are trained here how to tackle some of their problems that can be tackled in police station levels, and those that cannot be tackled there, and the right directions to direct them for them to get justice.
A lot of cases do come to this station, but being equipped with knowing where some of these cases are supposed to be referred to is very important, because you will understand that it is not all cases that are supposed to be treated at the police station.
Development is all about capacity to function. So if you are capacitized to function, then obviously there is development. And this is what we're looking for. And any working place, development is what is key. So capacitizing us to know how, to know the various offenses, to know the various issues are very paramount.
Community leaders, the police and alkalolus are fundamental components in the overall justice framework. However, one of the most important components is the everyday men, most of whom couldn't be trained in the formal settings. For this reason, other means of outreach was designed to get the messages of access to justice to the common man. Among the outreach programs was the face-to-face meetings, drama and songs, and Kanyalem performances, where the events were held in open areas in communities. FLAG, NCCE, ADRS and NALA conducted the programs to an indiscriminate audience of men, women, young people, and children from all walks of life.
We could have organized trainings in the combos or in the greater Banjul area, but then few people will benefit. Or we go to the radio or the TV and conduct programs. Not everybody access TV, or not everybody access radio, or even may not have the time when the program is being aired to listen to that. So we think face-to-face it's important, and it's a way that young people, elderly people, the religious people, everybody gathers at the Bantaba in village meeting, and all of them will participate.
Every child is entitled to go to school. You should not keep your children home. Because by doing that, you're depriving them of their right to education.
Focus group discussions featured lectures on human rights and gave the community members the opportunity to discuss their problems and seek out legal solutions. Entertainment through drama and traditional songs brought along sensitizations on civic rights and responsibilities. These messages resonated among the audience as they could relate more easily to these forms of informal communication.
Natna theater la fana nada min yalan ko yen sensitize man ka kangol la ye drama ke ka programme mol min fonye nate tani na drama fana kono wakata nye kulde mi yalan ko ngakuje ma bale suute ko wonyon kono je dal kuinala don kono anala danna sate mol be.
The drama and the scenarios that we use when you go in the community, in the shops, you hear people talking about it. That tells us that this approach, it's very good and the program was a success.
Nimo yala buku ba ko ju Ousmane do di je sa ne de nata adi Ousmane wayi ada bo fu do bandi de Ousmane janim be di amule folo be min ka mun dai fo ya tinna po do way de ko de taw ñi mbaludi si dai lo fo mole ban nalo janim be jam fala ko mo
nte mu folo ale dro wo bale mun na nafululti andum alkalo la stampo be mulle mi yalo ko aben na kaytol ko alkalo la stampo
alkalo
adim ma fodele yakiti.
As experience has it, youth usually find very little interest in training and face-to-face meetings of this nature. Therefore, a football tournament was organized to attract youth participation in not just an exciting tournament, but also an avenue of information sharing on their civic rights and responsibilities. A football tournament in each of the 3 regions brought along a huge turnout of boys, girls, men and women, community leaders and local authorities in the competition and exposed them to information about their civic rights. In Brikama, Fortune FC became the champion of the region. Quinella FC picked Quinella's trophy while Diabugu won the Kurau competition. A subsequent national championship was organized in Soma, Lower River region, bringing together the 3 winners of the pilot locations football tournaments, in which Fortune FC of Brikama emerged as the national champion of the A2J football tournament.
It's very, very important, for the National Council for Civic Education in collaboration with the European Union to choose football as a sport to bring down, to mobilize people so that they will be able to, they will be able to sensitize people of their objective goal, that is so that people, especially the youth, should get access to justice. By the way, they should know their legal rights and the mechanism, how best you can get out, people, the relevant institution responsible for justice.
Kuma baran tolele. Le joino NCC ani EU la joino kanyi samana menketa football de LRR. Kuma ya batale because ye moja male bendi nyokan ye cool for mole ye cool fatam fancy mole many alonko mol lonnu foloto barbi inata ye mo jama kala mutandi wala mu ila nyantoti ini mol be tamala nyadile mune nyanta kelela ko wolti pour mo kane nakar golla o kuma bata nyene.
When you give out football players jerseys and you put access to justice in front of the JC, what you are telling people is that you are using those players whenever they go out to play football, they will be able to reach hundreds of people, and those people will be able to read the message and carry the message home.
Tournament ni kaba abanda na meeting all command because waro me NCC nyinke aketa 1 2 days 3 days 4 days abanda, but anytime na meeting all ke dendi call me ye tala mol tema na fol ani fengol jasil ni mol yaje ka nyini ka mona nyindi so ko explain mole into details ko nyini le na jang asaba womu nyuleti ye samana pour mu luwani abe jenye na nyadi
nataje anytime nga fonna play lale ni be kata dam fo be kala dawda mol benta dawda nding e ka nyo sensitize about luwa mule mu luwati ana nyanda tamanda nyadile problem nyanta handula nyadile ko kundi nyanta tamanda nyadile katandi ko violence tetara fondinkel da maltema nga si Gambia free from violence na community yake free from violence ndol vangolo si ke da maltema ke free from violence wakatan tol fan so le kuku ma baldi mi ko nga sute nyin NCC ni EU la nyin project oni yemin natina we can do it hey 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 hey
NCCE made use of t-shirts, billboards, murals, posters, social media, television and radio programs to consolidate the information sharing on access to justice and civil rights.
Musola nyanto dila kanetora koe muso mbari muso kanetora musola nyanto dila kanetora koe muso na muso kanetora.
Women are normally not given the same rights or treated the same way as men are treated before the law, especially in certain situations they might experience or circumstances. When they come to the police, the way the police would handle it is completely different from the way they would handle male situations.
The government shall take all appropriate and practical measures to ensure and increase the participation of women in education, culture, conflict management and prevention in all levels of government.
The women should not be shunned away in decision making when it has to do with the household or children. They should be listened to
on what ideas they have in the upbringing of the children and the running of the household.
You have the right to be involved in politics, in anything that will bring peace and security to you. They have the right to participate. No one can tell them not to be involved in politics, not to be governors, not to be deputy governor. You have the right to be everything that a man can be.
I'll start off with the Women's Act. And the Women's Act came into force in 2010. And it is very comprehensive and a progressive piece of legislation. It is divided into 12 parts, set out the human rights of women and girls. In the Women's Act, when we talk about women, it also means the girl child. So they're covered under it. Prohibits violence and discrimination against women and girls. And it sets out the obligations of government and its organs and employers. So what this act is actually doing is also telling you what government need to do certain things in place for this act to be effective, and also what private and other public organs need to do also to make this act effective. Violence mooy mel ni loraange loo xam ne danga koo def nit mu gaañ ko mu lor ko si dara mu métti ko daal, okay, because mun nga koo ñàkka physically gaañ sax waaye nga wax ko dara mu métti ko mu affect ko in a way boo xam ne dafa nekk violence. So dafa important pour ñu understand que lan mooy violence.
Loi kum jàppa muy toroxal jigéen wala xale, loi bi am na doole pour teg la wax la ne di nga fay lu aagas ba si $50,000 wala loi mun na laa tëj 2 at. Ba pare lii bokkut ak ñu charge la criminal offenses, loi teg la leneen lu ute ak lii. Wala loi ta mun naa wax ne nga fay koo xam ne ki nga toroxal nga fay ko amount of xaalis compensation. Su dee dafa nekk nit koo xam ne loi mus na koo jàppa si façon bii mu defaat ko, loi dina ko teg fay ni $100,000 wala loi tëj ko 5 at. Su dee kooku moom daf koo neex rek muy dóor jigéen di ko toroxal.
There are different forms of sexual violence. It's not only rape, there are different forms of it, which I'm going to get to, which is basically any unwanted touching or an act of a sexual nature committed through force. Okay? The part of the force is what is important. Everybody has to have respect to another person's human body. We all know there are certain places you should not touch people publicly, in no circumstances.
Képp koo xam ne jàppee nañ ko rape mooy mu daanu si kaw nit rape la loi mun na laa tëj diiri 10 years. Te su fekkee ne ki nga daanu si kawam rape ko kooku nañ ne mu nekk sa doomi jiitle mu nekk sa doom si situation yooyu loi mun na laa tëj sa giiri dunda. Su yëfi sëy comme xale bu mutut sëy ku amul 18 years nga joxe ko mu sëy sëy boobu su amee sax loi mun naa teggi sëy boobu tegee ko boor parce que xale bu mutut sëy ku amul 18 years si loi munut a joxe waawam si sëy. Ñu bari dama gis xale bu jigéen bi su biiree rek ñu daaxa ko si school bi wala ñu génnee ko school. Loi may na xale bu jigéen bu biir te amul jëkkër su dee dafa dem school mu continuer jàngam ba fu mun a tutee dem school. Su ko yàlla mayee boppam tam loi may na ko pour mu dellu jànga kenn amul droit muy school bi muy principal bi muy waajuram bi pour aaye ko pour mu dellu school.
Koo xam ne xaleelam wara mbokkaam amul fukki at ak juróom-ñetta te ñu ne ñu ngi ko tuumal suñ ko yóbboo si police bi di ko laaj na ngeen fa teewee bu leen bàyyee xale bi rek ak police yi parce que xaleel amul fit comme fiti mag te xale bi su fekkee ne moom moo police yi rek la mun naa tiit mu wax dara war a ñu wax loo ko dara lu nga xam ne warta wax loolu waaye su kilifaam taxawee war a koo xam ne dina ko ñemeloo xale bi dina am fit pour mun a wax lu correct parce que foofu moo nekk the most important point moo nekk statement bi.
In the case of a child, in order to protect him or her from any chance of abuse or influence by an adult male prisoner, he or she must be detained separately from adults when bail is denied or he or she is found to have committed a grave offense such as treason, murder, robbery, or gender-based violence.
If an adult is charged with a child, they will be prosecuted at the High Court. when the case is finished and they're about to sentence them, the child will now be taken to the children's court for sentencing. Do you understand?
Because as a child welfare officer, now I have learned a lot. Even I know which procedures to take when there is a rape case and when there is someone gets impregnated with another man without taking care of the child. I know all that because of this training.
Police manke kiti lati. Police buka alamano ke mola. Police yo menke asi menke no drong wole mu kela ke charge ila wo charge sheet chika asamba kiti ola yeta kiti bungoto ninki ninluaye muta kiti lallabe alaman la wala idolebe soronna bare policeman ray soto pour que alaman.
So the act is saying that an arrest is effected by a police officer or other persons making the arrest actually touching or confining the body of the person to be arrested unless there is a submission to custody by word of mouth or action.
Police assistance after receipt of complaint under section 22. When a police officer receives a complaint, the officer shall interview the parties and witnesses to the domestic violence, including children, in accordance with the provisions of the Children's Act, record the complaint in detail and provide the victim with an extract of the complaint upon request in a language that they understand.
It's very important for us to know where our powers lies, okay? Because some of these acts and some of these laws of the Gambia does not only, like, we the police are not the only one to partake in them. So it's like you have other institutions in the Gambia, though all are not known to the public, but thank God to this training now. Like if you go back to our various stations, like I know issues will come on this, but it will be like a gateway for us to show them where to go and where to get their right justice for their various cases.
A lot of cases do come to this station, but being equipped with knowing where some of these cases are supposed to be referred to is very important, because you will understand that it is not all cases that are supposed to be treated at the police station.
It has come to our attention that married couples will go to the police when it comes to their marriage issues, and the police try to make it a police case when it's not a police case. But I know you have community policing, that you try to settle matters, not at the level of your police, but at the level of your community policing, which we encourage. But it should not get to the point that the police should intervene as if it's a criminal matter. No. And when Fatu comes, Fatu will tell you, he is my husband, but he beats me up. So it's for the police just to deal with the assault aspect of it and not the marriage aspect of it.
Ke muta ke sindi dula killing ita tala dulato luako amanyin na tambele tili saba wala mondore wate tan woro wula anin fula janninyi mondore wate tan woro wula anin fula be banna ku fula lebe je killing kata bake ye samba kiti yola wala ye allow ye bel janninyi tili saba be banna.
Their level of understanding has completely changed because most of them were not even aware of the certain legislations that were already in place. So we have equipped them with the knowledge and have explained to them what their roles are, reminded them of what their roles are and what their responsibilities are, and where to direct people in case they come to them with a problem that it's not for them to solve, but direct them to the right places. The project is all about access to justice. If they don't know, they cannot send people to anywhere. And the structures of the court were to tell them where to go if they have problems, and the hierarchy of the courts. We had to tell them where to go if you have land matters, where to go if you have this matter, like the magistrate court, the district tribunal, the high court, the court of appeal, the Supreme Court. They had to know the different courts that are available in this Gambia or that are in this Gambia. So they'll be able to direct people on the necessary places to go to if they have problems. You have magistrate court, tribunal, children's court, same level. And then if you're not happy, high court. If you're not happy with the high court, court of appeal. If you're not happy with the court of appeal, Supreme Court. Okay? So we are talking about the jurisdiction of the court, and the magistrate court has a vast jurisdiction. It's only the capital offenses you spoke about that they don't hear, but all other cases they can hear it. All other civil matters they can hear it. Breach of contract, breach, all of those things they can hear it. Yeah? The High Court, Mom, they hear everything. First of all, they serve as an appeal to the magistrate court and also to the children's court. But they can also hear fresh matters like even some breach of contract. If it's, the magistrate court has a limit. Above 1 million, they cannot hear it. Below 1 million, they can hear it. If the breach of contract is above 1.5 million, the magistrate court does not have jurisdiction. It has to go to the High Court.
There are some matters that goes directly to the High Court without going to these lower courts. And I think one of these issues is like murder case and treason and economic crime. Yes, and rape. These issues goes direct to the High Court. But apart from that, all the other courts, all the other issues, they start from the lower courts, these lower courts, and then when not satisfied, you appeal to the High Court.
The Supreme Court hears all appeal cases. That is criminal, civil, everything. Court of Appeal, same thing. They hear all appeal cases. Supreme Court, High Court, same thing. It's only when it has to do with the Constitution. It's only the Supreme Court that has the power to make amendments to the Constitution. Only the Supreme Court.
Nata court bunda alfanan long, court bunda jelle Gambia, mi yalon katata for waragula. Otu bontol nga miracle ni danta alkalo wala sefo ya jelle mi landulat.
Nunto kiti o ko kurndin ka be samba sefo ya bar sa nata je ko difference o be temal. Dole beje wala nyanda tala sefo ya ba dole beje wala nyanda tala police le dole nyanda tala court. Ha otu mo sa abatambuli nyoto ngalon ne memo mente memo sefo la kitete ngalon ne memo police solta ngalon ne memo court.
Well, the most important part of the lecture was how to acquire land, because most people did not know. And we said the 3 ways of acquiring a land was through, first of all, to inheritance. As, for example, if your parents die and you inherited your land from your parents. The second one is if a gift, if somebody gifts a land to you, where a deed of gift will be prepared by a lawyer and given to you. And the third one is when you have your money and you go and want to buy the land. So these were the three main ways of getting land. Obviously, if you also apply to government and government allocates you a land, that's another way of getting it. And we also described that in Gambia there are two different lands. There's a leased land and there's customary land. And the leased land, it's a document, it's a legal document, and the customary land is when you want to land and you want to go to the alcalo and get it. So these are the two. That's a freehold and a leasehold.
One of the most important things that I've learned from Flag's training on this project is, the land rights, because that is a very, very, very big headache and a very big issue within our community. One, the laws and what the Constitution has said on the land, we, the local people on the ground, we don't know that.
You will see that the Women's Act has made certain provision about land rights of women. But when you come down to the community level, they wouldn't feel prepared to apply the Women's Act. They would rather go with the customary law.
Here in this community, women cannot own land. They cannot buy it and then they cannot own it. The only thing that they can have land of is if somebody give it to them so that they can use it during the rainy season to farm on. But they cannot buy it and then they cannot own it themselves, because what they think is that the woman who is in that family is not permanently in that family. She will one day go to another place, to get married, and that's where her permanent home is.
Dicte loi bi dafa wax ne land ako kadu loi ko le ko kenu do ko muna jaayé gemin ako ita jaay no la ka fo mu nekk ci kayit ako passé kayit wa man ko loi bi do ko recognize waaye léegi ako sai
ki nga xam ne mooy jaay
ako min ka wa
dafa very important
ako wo kumaya
nga signé kayit bi
ako pour aya kayito ni
because land ki ko jënd du dee nekk problème am keneen mën naa signé on your behalf su fekkee am nga problème yi land
ako ni keneen ku problème o soto
mel ni nga ne Binta mu ngi ñëw toog si sa land
ako ko mi mimbo kon tenga na nga sila kenoto
su fekkee yaa ngi ko gis yaa ngi koo bàyyi
ako du yenjejeele yembulaje
su passé 12 years fukki at ak ñaar
ako naata mbita sanyi muwanni fulala
soo demee su luwa bi nga ne ko dama bëgg nga génnee Binta
ako ni itata luwata pour ka tandi ko i laftale kam te bondi wo kenoto
luwa bi du la déglu
ako luwate la moy lela
nik te dafa wax ne mbiri laan
ako kaatu luwa ko le ko kene kuwo
may ne diiri fukki at ak ñaar
ako kata yeso sanji worawula
pour nga indi si nit court
ako pour ye mo samba ko sanji tan
comme yow léegi Binta mu ngi jël sa laan yaa ngi jëlal laan mu ñëw toog fa yow waxuloo dara yaa ngi nekk xëy na di waxa moom génn suma laan faale wala yóbbuloo ko court ko 12 years su passé boo demee si court bi ne génnee leen ko court bi du la déglu daf laa ne gis nga ko
land issues problème boo xam ne boobu daanaka daily problème la si police station yi dañ ko dee far de report foofu leen da ñun ñoo xam nañ ne alkaali wala ñeneen borom jàtta yi dañ day jaay benn jàtta si ñaari ñetti nit loolu problème bu rëy la especially si surtout si Kombo fii nii façon problème yooyu dañ ko dee am si stations yi.
Yes, before coming to this place I would have said like if someone comes with a land issue like taking a complaint or hearing from the individual, you know, inviting the second party, like the two parties that are arguing over a land. But now, thank God to this training, it's like I know the place that I will direct the complainant directly, not even dealing with anything to do with the matter of the land.
I am working with an alikali, together with the paramount chief within our district. And I know how important this project it is. Because as for me myself, before this, project is coming in, I know what we have been encountering. But now I've learned, a lot of things that I can even address at our level before even going out.
Marriage, inheritance, and divorce. These were very important topics. Like I said in the beginning, we are 90% Muslim, and we're governed by our customary laws, which is recognized in the Constitution of the Republic. And it was important for them to know the rights, especially of women in marriage and in divorce, and also inheritance. Valid marriage requirements. One is it has to be a man marrying a woman, not the man and man, woman and woman. Okay? 2, consent of parties. Both parties have to consent. Dowry must be paid by the husband to the wife. There has to be witnesses from both sides. There has to be witnesses to the marriage.
Just as there were witnesses to the marriage, there must be witnesses to the divorce for it to be valid. If the man has taken those steps, either you pronounce that you divorce your wife or you write it in a letter or otherwise, there are rights that are conferred on the wife from that point. The wife will have to remain in your house for 3 months, in the house of the husband.
A woman and a man have the right to inherit in equitable shares of their parents' property according to personal law.
The principle of Sharia is, if a man dies and leaves an estate behind him, the woman must have someone. Even if the property is not small, the woman must have someone from there. It's a principle of Sharia.
Keta fana ngalo fana mu problemote jane fana. Muso ita fono le ko parce que ita mu di musolti ite keta sono le si fama keta no le yo nyanto fana sotole.
Sariang la karola na fahamu roma waraje. Barnata na je yen karandi muso. Sariango katama nyadile ke dingoni nyadile. O nche manuel kan dingol ni nyaadile inyanta dingo ni lale natara ala lafo kan imanya na dingo forcer la ya futunde ngawo je kuwo kono ñu ñon karan won namanan siya kenot pour hakile maya dimbaya samba nyala karola o e molu te mola karola o nyanto la karola o nyen kay nyin nafaate dan nan to lu dam mala birin jam fo men no be suwo kono ibele be nyen karan wona fa sotot
We centered on areas that we think that it's common within this jurisdiction. So that is what we focused on, and we created exercises, group works, so that what we have taught them, we gave them exercises to do to see whether what they were taught they can pick out from those exercises. So that's what we were doing.
Akana Kenya Sonkati, Akana Kenya Nyotorati, Akana Kenya Kanawali. The Mulmu Female Lawyers Association flag.
And we are pleased because of a number of reasons. Number one, we realized that all the subjects which were addressed during the 4 days were relevant and responded to the preoccupation of the community. The second reason why we are pleased with this training, you contributed to the delivery of the training. Not only you were heavily engaged in the working group, but also in most of the subjects, you were bringing your contribution. And that helped to enrich the content.
The importance of this campaign. The campaign has a great importance to the Gambia because the whole purpose of this campaign is to create awareness, as per the name, access to justice, is to create awareness to the general public to know where to go to if they have legal issues and where to go and seek redress for their legal problems. So it is a very important project that is here to create awareness to the general public and obviously the law enforcement officers.
This project has a great impact on the participants because, it changes their way of thinking and then the way they see the law and then, what they think, is the right thing.
All what we learn, it will going to help us to our day-to-day operation as police officers, and we can definitely talk to the public because we normally have community policing with the public, and we're going to sensitize them for what we learn here.
Some of these acts, honestly, I was not so much familiar with some of these acts, children's acts, women's acts, and so forth. So with this training, honestly, I have been familiar with a lot of acts.
Right, and this is a very kind gesture of them, all right, in bringing, all right, access to justice to people doorstep. Right, because most of us, or some people in the community, all right, don't have access to the books to read because they cannot read or write. But information that carried out, information that we hear from the music, all right, and the information that individuals give out, all right, that takes a long way, all right, in the life of people, all right, in connection with their access to justice.
I am more kind of family. Me ya lonko wala tambe jan tlenga hani million because ni moy londo dila ay jolango dila me yanko ay sebentu ya ay la nyaato walang pour sita nyalo
joni kala debbo gondo do faami so hoti hande hebi no jodori hebi no mari besngumu so hebi tampere andi do damude do femata
londo momen nyata londo dila do sinyo yato ba o kene ko bang fo dindun la ko bang fo ñu musu ñanda sile ñane alhamdulillah o atendu balde.
They have taught us our rights and how to fight our rights, and if you have a case where you should start and where you should go.
The pilot project has tremendously transformed the awareness levels of the 3 regions on their rights and responsibilities. However, the justice framework goes beyond the limits of these 3 locations. There is still a large number of Gambians who have very little knowledge about the available justice systems and civic rights. Hence, the need for the campaign to be expanded to other regions of the country.
On this project, we only targeting 3 communities, and that's the West Coast region, Quinella, and Kurau. And our wish is to cover the whole of the Gambia. Because this is all access to justice, creating awareness, so at least people can know where to go to in case they have legal problems and what to do. So yeah, generally, we say a big thank you to the EU for giving us and the Gambian public this opportunity, and hoping that more projects will come in place where we create more awareness for the people of the Gambia.
Kane fawara londo be bulunka tala manjari sonkala tukarere ata ko jisuma kuol kanyandi mulmano ye karandi ifam maji na sabar nyoye bi wasina ken na kairati anna lodu lale kanyandi kane fawara tukarere alna kambe alna fansu tole